That's showbiz, baby. Welcome to episode 27 of That Showbiz Baby podcast, your all things music, business, and media podcast. I'm your host, Colin McKay, with my co-host, Joseph Wazalewski, and our guest, Kennedy Murakami, who is a copyright licensing and royalty associate from Concord Music. I like using the official title. It's fun.
I mean, it makes me sound cool.
Yeah, it's like using our full degree titles where it's like that 10-word sentence instead of being like, I've majored in audio.
Yeah, I like to, for job interviews, I bring my degree.
You're one of those.
Just to flex a little
frame.
bit.
Yeah, like if you need proof, here it is.
Yeah, but if you want to see our degrees, you can follow us on our socials, Twitter at ShowbizBabyPod, Facebook and Instagram at That Showbiz Baby Podcast, or email us, thatshowbizbabypodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we'll just start emailing people our degrees. It's just to, just for them to have.
For the cred.
It's like a Christmas card.
I think that'd be so funny on like Instagram, just to have like our full diplomas and be like, in case you didn't know. Whoa, like I was
Wow.
like, here's a degree that's not as good as you think it is. All right. So Kennedy, how are you doing today? Good? Hopefully. Making it?
I'm surviving.
Yeah, aren't we all? So can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Concord?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work in mechanical licensing. So pretty much every release that's put out for a record label has to, pay its songwriters. So that's my job. Going out, finding them, paying them, making sure they're happy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Who doesn't want to get paid? Like
Exactly.
Especially right now.
Right. Especially, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, so I haven't been paying attention to this money.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. People are like, yo, so I found out that there's this revenue stream called mechanical licensing. Where's that at?
Oh my God. Oh, I literally would just be like, I'm here. What do you want?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, it's great to have you on though. And like, man, yeah, those people, I'm sure people have been barking up your tree all the time though. Cause it is the time with all the touring and all this stuff, going down and people not having enough money. And one person who's been getting really, really screwed with money is Chance the Rapper, who is getting hit with a $3 million lawsuit from his former manager, Pat Corcoran.
Oh, I was about to say, is it Chance who's getting screwed or his manager?
Okay, I think it's Chance, and I'll give you the details, and then we'll see what you think. So, according to the complaint, Chance the Rapper, real name Chancellor Bennett, ignored his professional advice in the lead up to the release of his debut studio album, The Big Day, on July 26, 2019, and subsequently blamed Corcoran for the album's mixed response as well as poor ticket sales for the accompanying tour. After Bennett fired Corcoran alleges his request for more than $3 million in unpaid commissions were denied. And then this is the best part. With Bennett's father, Ken Bennett, instead offering a flat sum of $350,000. So close. So the suit also is, quote, additionally asking the court to order an accounting of all accounts earned by the Bennetts beginning in February 2013, the date that Corcoran says that Bennett agreed to pay him 15% commission of all touring, merch, and album sales, among other income streams, as well as to enforce a sunset clause that would entitle him to future commissions for a 3-year post-termination period ending April 5th, 2023, which is very standard. Like, that's a standard 15%. I'm honestly surprised it's not like 20 or something. Mm-hmm. So the defendants in the case are Chance the Rapper LLC and Chance's touring and merch companies. Remember, he was the guy who was always like, I'm independent. Everything's independent. And part of that is because of this manager, which I'll get to later. And Chance's legal team responded by saying that Corcoran had been fairly compensated and the suit is full of, quote, self-serving and fabricated allegations. So Corcoran basically has a 20-page lawsuit about their entire relationship from start to finish. So it's like really interesting. And basically he's trying to show how he was the one to get Chance, into the limelight with his decision making and everything, and kind of show why he's owed this $3 million.
And he's been his manager since like the beginning, right? Before Chance was even.
So I think he did the 2 mixtapes and then this album, which is what he got canned for eventually. Mm-hmm. So as Billboard describes this as, it's a, quote, portrait of a dedicated dedicated manager, this sounds like a movie, dedicated manager frustrated by his superstar client allegations, self-sabotaging behavior, as well as the eventual implosion of the first proper album release and national tour.
Yeah, so basically an Entourage episode.
Yeah, pretty much. So some of the highlights that Cochran claims he was instrumental in were Coloring Book, a mixtape by Chance, exclusive release on Apple Music for a 2-week period in 2016, all while allowing Bennett to retain control of his masters, while also securing enough funds to clear the whole album with appearances by Kanye, Justin Bieber, Young Thug, and others, and not having to pay royalties to Apple. Not a small list of things. So here's another one. The building of Chance's huge independent merch company, and this is the one I find crazy. It details instead of the usual deal of artists taking a percentage from the merch company sales, Cochran claims he negotiating buying Chance's signature 3 hats at wholesale and then selling them exclusively on their website, which is extremely risky because they're taking all the costs, but it paid off tremendously and had a huge profit margin, and the hat is the new era's best-selling hats ever produced that is not affiliated with a major sports team, which I didn't know, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a lot of money. Again, independent too, so he's not getting a record label cut from there. The issues between the two began to show, according to the suit, around February 2019. So Cochran claims Chance did not inform him before announcing his first full album, The Big Day, and it would release in July of 2019. Cochran claims he advised Chance of concerns over creating the first full album in that short amount of time, 4 months, with Chance's wedding in March. Chance supposedly ignored these claims and started recording, and the suit claims the recording sessions were, quote, unproductive and undisciplined. Quote, procrastination and lackadaisical effort perpetuated by various hanger-ons uninterested in the hard work of writing and recording resulted in a freestyle-driven product of subpar quality, a complete deviation from the meticulous writing process that brought Bennett fame from his wordplay and wit, which, Jesus Christ, what a diss is that? The complaint goes on to state how this album ended up to be, quote, Chance's least popular project to date, and that it delivered a blow. Because of this, the suit claims that it was led to the cancellation of Chance's tour of the album due to, quote, low ticket sales and poor attendance projections as Cochran wanted to regroup. Cochran also goes in detail about how Chance's father and brother, everyone's favorite business and family, Ken and Taylor, also were increasingly involved into The Big Day.
Ken and Taylor? It sounds like Penn and Taylor.
Yeah, Penn and Teller. No. Cochran states how a merch strategy was in place for months, but quickly was stopped by Taylor just before launch, halting production and pre-sales. Cochran was also at ends with the duo as they continued to advise Chance with, quote, little or no music experience, as Cochran wanted to lay low and focus on the material, while the duo encouraged Chance to do as much promotional material as possible, appearing on Ellen, Good Morning America, and more. In Cochran's eyes, quote, these appearances only serve to exacerbate the failure of Big Day. After the album's failure, this is the kicker, Cochran claims he was blamed for all its relative failure and fired in April. Cochran then tried for months to resolve his pay. Eventually, quote, he eventually presented them with a list of all the commissions owned from streaming, sales of the album, releases and singles, as well as proceeds from touring and merch, for which Chance's father, again, Ken, presented $350,000 to resolve this dispute, which led to the lawsuit.
That's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there.
Stuff. I just was like, I was reading this and I was like, people get really personal with their managers. It's probably something stupid. But based on just the allegations in here, I'm like, Jesus, go off, Cochran, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God. Yeah, look, he's got a very standard deal, like I kind of noted before. He's got a 15% take of pretty much everything. And if you don't know, sunset clauses are really common with managers. So he has, 3 years that he's supposedly supposed to get, a cut of 15%. It's very usual for managers to get that together, because the idea is that, I made this happen. The money that you're getting right now is raking in from my work.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, being as an album cycle can go into like a year, 2 years, because you don't know when the release is going to be.
The thing
and
that I
all
can't
that.
find in here, though, is I haven't found if this was written down or just said.
I did read somewhere that it wasn't the initial agreement. The 15% was an oral agreement.
Yeah.
Whether or not that ever got written down and put into an actual contract, not confirmed. But
Yeah.
Damn,
That's
dude.
what I think. That's what I thought was going on, because I think part of
Because it's pretty standard. Like, this isn't really something you could argue over if you had it in writing.
Right,
Like,
because
it would be pretty clear cut. Like
I
a
think
judge
he has
would.
two things to argue here. He has to argue the normalcy of the deal, because it's extremely normal for managers, so that's a pro to him. And he has to argue the pay structure he's already had. So if he has the records to show, like, I've been getting paid 15% this whole time, then a judge might rule in his side pretty easily, which is why I think he wants the additional accounting for all the money. And also, he just wants to know if there's some secret money out there that he's not getting 15% of. Because obviously, they're not on good terms, so it wouldn't put, I can't allege anything, but like, when people are against the wall sometimes and you're like, oh, screw you, manager, I hate you so much. Like, it'd be easy to be like, we're going to get you a new guy, just don't tell him about this thing, what I mean, that we're making money off of, or something like that.
Yeah, in this case, screw you, manager, for giving me good advice. I want to do what I want.
So like that album,
And then also, it's your fault that this album.
oh my god,
What the fuck is wrong with you? You should have told me not to do it. I did tell you not to do it. Well, fuck
that's
you.
exactly
You're
what
fired.
happened. And then Ken and Taylor are like, man, that's just what it was. That's just how it goes.
And then they go do a residency in Vegas doing magic. But I think, yeah, it's definitely interesting because
That took me a second.
It's
Sorry.
interesting because this isn't like a new thing. I mean, this has happened all the time where artists are always, it's always the manager's fault on something, and sometimes it is. To be fair, there are some really bad managers out there that, take too much or aren't doing enough to support their client. But I think in this case, if these allegations are true, I mean, it's obvious it was like a one-sided thing, and that, you got to pay your people, especially if you want them to do a good job for you. So makes me wonder if they were having problems even on the lead up to that firing, like even getting money from that, or if it was just all at once, like he was just gone the next day,
Yeah.
I mean, they were together for like 8 years or something, since like before Chance the Rapper was anybody or any name.
Right.
So I mean, there has to be more to the story than what's in this allegation. But if you're gonna take something to a lawsuit, you're gonna go for all you can. So
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, why? Yeah, the part of the thing is, as I said with the accounting, it's like he wants to know if he has extra money, but at this point, it's like, why not? I'm already suing the guy for $3 million. You know what I mean?
Go big or go home, man.
Right. I mean,
He's not taking that $350K though. He's like, no, that's
Well,
chump
who knows?
change.
Yeah.
For Chance the Rapper, that's chump change.
Oh,
like,
and a manager for an independent artist is doing more work than you can imagine. Like, if you don't have a label support or publishing support, your manager, and I'm sure with the help of some lawyers, but is fully in charge of making sure that money comes in. And so they're going to want their right to their 15%, which, by the way, is pretty low, actually. 20%, I believe, is like an industry standard.
yeah. From what I've read, it's like 15 to 20 is like the beginner, like kind of like, this is what we're doing kind of thing. But pretty much, yeah, I completely agree on all those factors. It's just, especially for the man who's Mr. Independent. Like, he was the guy that everyone was like, we can do this. We can beat Spotify. We can just be independent. We can beat this record label and all that stuff. So he's had, and he's had great success. So he's had some serious cash flow. You know what I mean? He's not getting 20% of his royalties. He's getting all of his royalties.
I'd like to point out, independent doesn't mean alone. It means you're independent from a record label. And so having a strong team behind you is important. It's just as important as any other artist team. So the reason Chance is so big is because he had a really good artist team, which makes you think, Chance, this guy is giving you great advice your entire career. Maybe you should follow his advice because it seems like he knows what he's doing. Nah, man.
Yeah.
He said nope.
The family got involved, though, and I think that's where things
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
to change.
Everyone's favorite, family and business, and for me, I was like, when I saw that, I was like, here's the real, like literally I was reading the whole thing, and then at the end of the article, it says like, his family was involved, and I was like, oh, here we go. Here's all the boxes.
How much you want to guess? one of his family members is going to be like, Chance, I'll be your manager.
Oh no, he like fully hired his brother and dad
Oh.
as his manager. once he fired
I
Pat.
fucking knew it.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. And the worst thing is, in Chance, maybe in his eyes, he's like, oh, this is a great thing. I can help out my brother and help me out. We're going to do great things. But, maybe 10 years from now, when you're losing a ton of money and your business is not doing as best as you thought it would be doing.
The man has a merch company and owns a touring company. You know what I mean? So it's like he's got, as much as, I'm saying he's getting this huge rack of independent, he has like a huge rack of costs on top of it that are usually label costs or our favorite recoupable costs.
Ooh, we love it.
Yeah. So like, yeah, he's got a huge thing going here. And like the last album did not do well. Like, even though like this is what they claim, but like in general, the last album did not do well among a lot of fans and in charting and staying up there. And so like, he's on a kind of like, he was on a rise for his entire career. And then that album came out and it was the first fall. And so like, he's doing that. He's getting sued. His brother and, father are now his manager, which according to this article, they have little to no music experience. It's like a domino effect waiting to happen. I hope that it's not, the worst thing in the world for him, but like he needs to pay the people that need to get paid.
The thing about Chance too is like, even though he did have this flop, he's still such a prolific artist and that I still think has such a huge career ahead of him that I feel like it would be ridiculous not to like I guess he still wants to be the independent guy, but I don't think anybody would fault him for getting a major deal at this point. Like I just don't think it's because he's done it longer than anybody else has done it. So I mean that in itself is historical and it's insane that he's been able to do it. But I mean, maybe he is going to get to that point where he's going to have to make that decision. This might be a catalyst for that,
right?
Especially if he's getting a bunch of pressure, like either financially, creatively, what have you, over the whole situation. But I definitely think the family members being managers, part of your business thing. I mean, we've seen over decades of the music industry how that's such a bad idea to do.
No, Joe, no. Your brother who does accounting is a great music manager. No, like something like that. I don't know, man. It's messy, it's weird, and it's like one of those things where, in my opinion, just from this, unless there's some like crazy evidence out there, I think he's going to win, but that's just me.
The manager?
Yeah, I think he's going to win just because it's very... Like,
he has the receipts,
so standard.
Dude. He's got the receipts.
Right. I mean, like when he, like I said at the end, he like presented the father and brother, like the stuff where he's like, here's all the commissions that are owed from streaming and stuff. I was like, he's the one who's been getting the receipts. He's the one who knows he's being screwed.
He has all the
evidence.
Well, and I read somewhere that like he also has personally... I'm going to use that term loosely because I don't know exactly how personally, but invested like $2.5 million into the merch company and like the different things to like pay upfront cost that he's also like trying to get back as part of that litigation.
Yeah. We don't even know like what else is going on with like, I'm very curious what the accounting's going to show. You know what I mean? Like if that goes
I think that's really going to be like, it's going to be dependent on that.
And I'm sure his lawyer fees are in here too, like, so like, it's going to be a shit ton of money. He's on a downward slope. He's got merch companies to deal with. He's got touring companies to pay, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what, he ends up with. It's just like one of those things where, like I was saying, he was Mr. Independent. Like that was the thing. Everyone was like, oh my God, this guy is beating everything. And like, clearly, like I said,
which if he doesn't switch now, it might actually hurt him.
And in the long run. Honestly, like with having a merch company and a touring company right now,
what are you doing?
It's really going to be affected.
I mean, maybe the hats are doing well, but I don't know how the touring company is doing, Yeah. I mean, I'm sure what it means by touring company, I don't know for sure. I need to look it up, but like, I'm sure it means like they just handle his tour, but like, I'm sure there's a bunch of guys that are like, we have no work and won't have any work for a long time. Other than, like, you have to think about it. He canceled the tour and then coronavirus happened. So like the guys who were working on it were probably like, oh, it's all right. We'll get another album cycle. And then like March hit and they're like, no, it's not happening for a long time. Oh man. But, speaking of going to a major, Joe's got a good story about that from one of the oldest.
So we don't actually think too much of Bob Dylan as being an independent, but he was actually independent in his publishing rights for his entire career, it seems like, for the most part. So Universal Music Publishing buys Bob Dylan's song catalog. So stated by Billboard as what could be the biggest deal ever for a single songwriter and valued at more than $300 million. Universal Music Publishing has announced that it has purchased Dylan's entire catalog from 1962 to now from the artist himself. So Dylan's publishing is currently admin by his company, very creative, Bob Dylan Music Company. I love it. And worldwide by Sony ATV Music Publishing. So that's basically like anything out of the US is Sony ATV territory. Mm-hmm. So Sony stated that the deal will remain for several years, even with the presence of the newest deal. And due to the pandemic, publishing deals are in high demand due to the rise of streaming numbers, as well as low interest rates, which makes acquisitions more appealing. So Joe Biden's tax plan might also push for more publishing deals that are happening within the next month or two, because the current tax rate is 20% on capital gain, which may double to 40% after Biden claims his spot. So another reason that singer-songwriters are getting these deals apparently is because a lot of them are aging as well, and they are trying to figure out what to do about retirement, as you know, hopefully is a thing for all of us here, but well, that's a whole other can of worms I'm not even getting into. But according to Billboard, quote, only the Beatles are as influential as Dylan, the only songwriter to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, as well as writing more than 600 compositions with works such as Blowing in the Wind, The Times They Are A-Changing, Like a Rolling Stone, Knock on Heaven's Door, and Tangled Up in Blue. At the time, Dylan went against the industry method of using industry songwriters pitching to singers and has consistently written his own work. And according to sources close to the deal, there was no bidding war over the deal, which is due to the relationship between Dylan's team and Universal Publishing. And I think a lot of that, too, is because it was so secret. Like, if anybody had a sliver that Dylan was selling his composition, it would have been insane. Yeah. And Kennedy, I want your take on this, because especially Concord is notorious for buying up a bunch of catalogs.
Yeah.
You guys just got Imagine Dragons, so that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and like you said, it was so hush hush. I didn't find out about it until today, and I sent it to my entire team. I was like, Bob Dylan sold his catalog? Like, what? That is
so big.
Yeah,
so
it's
big.
huge.
It's like I cannot explain to you for the industry, but it kind of makes sense as well, just because of like copyright, terms and things. And I believe that they only sold his publishing catalog, so it's not like they aren't still racking in tons of money on other rights. But yeah, that's huge. I wouldn't have ever thought that they would sell that catalog. It's
very strange. You think maybe it would be like an after death thing or something, by the family, but like no,
or even sectioned off the entire catalog. That's the thing that's crazy.
You can have all of Bob Dylan's gospel Christian music, which is a thing if you don't know. Like that's
this is sounding like one of those late night commercials. It's like, call this number and get Bob Dylan.
Yeah, if you didn't know Bob Dylan had a weird Christian period, like Christian music period, I just imagine like they were like, okay, well, you could take the whole catalog, or you could just buy the Christian music period. Yeah. And like, again, if you don't know that much Bob Dylan, please look up stuff about Bob Dylan. I don't know why I have to say this.
I mean, he's a
Mr.
fascinating songwriter.
So
I mean,
he's so influential, but like the thing is like he's writing all those songs. He has it's not like co-written with anyone. It's just Bob Dylan. There ain't no like 50 writers on there. So like the money on that case is why it's also nuts. It's just him, 90% of the time. And then the other thing is I really do think that this like capital gains tax stuff would be a huge deal. And like, why, I mean, we saw Stevie Nicks sell a huge part of like $100 million of like her catalog and publishing rights and stuff like that. And so like, I've seen that all over the place. And
I think it's definitely going to be more and more the thing as January 20th comes up, they
can't tour. They might have these tax
this is all they got,
like this is the time if it's like, okay, well, like if I was like 80, it's like you're going to have to live out the coronavirus to go touring again. You know what I mean? Like either because I'm an at-risk person or because, you know, the amount of time it will take to implement a vaccine, you know, money from touring ain't coming for a long time. So this seems like an easy, like, you know, obviously it's hard to be like, I'm selling my songs, you know, but like it's a nest egg that's there, you know, for them if they really need to. Again, you have to be as prolific as Bob Dylan. That's not an easy fit, you know?
Yeah, which is in itself, I mean, he's a unicorn amongst the entire music industry. But Kennedy, what is it? What goes into something this big? Do you know?
I mean, I don't know the specifics, and I work on the label side, so even less so. But like, I mean, the deals are like, the calculations for them are crazy. I want to know how they came up with a $300 million price tag.
It seems like that's what people are saying it might be. They didn't come out and state the number.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be.
They said
like,
it might even be even more than that.
It's got to be like one of those calculations, like how the dollar is calculated, where it's like, this is how much we believe the dollar is worth. And so like, I imagine they would be like, this is how much we believe your songs are worth because this is how much the market is willing to pay. Like, and I guess that's probably what it is, but I don't know who would be qualified to like be like, you know, wait a second, we could get this for $298. You know,
so Billboard actually talked about this a little bit. So according to Billboard, publishing catalogs are generally valued by multiples of net publisher's share. Roughly gross profit after songwriter royalties are paid out, and the most valuable now sell for 17 or 18 times net publisher share, up from 14 or 15 times several years ago. So it
Thank
seems
God
like
I read that publishing chapter because I finally like understand what the hell you.
Yeah, but so basically it's just like how much life does this thing? How much life do we think this is gonna have? It seems like, and like
I was trying to make
how much we
something
could push
that's
it.
like, you know, not analytical. And
Yeah.
so like that's the hard part about it. I mean,
which it's all estimate.
Yeah.
Like you can't really, you don't know
it's just
how
comes
much.
back to like societal, like how much is a song worth?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
But I think too with Dylan, that's so different than a lot of artists is he's got so many people covering him. Every single artist has covered Dylan at some point. You know, it's insane.
Oh, the PRO like for that must be nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Something really important to also think about regarding this topic is that for sync deals, publishing is what leads a sync deal. You can get a sync deal with just the publisher. You can't get a sync deal with just the master. So
Can you imagine just like, also, I guess this could work for like all his songs, especially like the early 61s are like depressing and like getting through like war in Vietnam, which is like the perfect commercials for COVID, you know, like we're making it through, blowing in the wind, you know, like, so it's like one of those things where like his material might be good for that too. And Joe, you're right. Like the covering is all over the place. So the the PRO revenue must be out the window too.
Yeah.
So like,
I think what's fascinating too is we were talking off mic a little bit, Colin, but like Bob Dylan, I don't think people realize because he's not in the limelight. He is super old. So like this might be one of the final things we see Bob Dylan
he's
doing.
79 years old. So he's a good, you know, he's close to like,
Okay, I thought he was older than that, but
no, okay, here's the thing. He's had a number of injuries in his life and like weird, you know, drugs stuff. So it's like kind of put him up. Like he had that terrible, like I think he had 2 motorcycle accidents and stuff, which is like why he didn't like play guitar.
so
for, like,
a lot of
20
medical
years.
stuff.
Yeah, like I saw him like when I don't know, like 2013 or something, and it was like if you said I went to a Bob Dylan concert and I sent you it, you'd be like, no, you didn't, because it's literally like a grand piano, an upright bass, and a jazz drum kit, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he's just playing the piano, you know, all these other songs, and I'm like,
Colin, I don't think you realize you saw like a historical figure that night.
well, my father dragged me to a lot of things as a child, so
Yeah, that's insane to me. I can't even imagine seeing Bob
You wanna hear
Dylan
the
play.
weirdest thing about that concert? Sorry, they had like a bunch of the hippie bands, so they had like Wilco in there, and they had My Morning Jacket. Where
Yeah,
the
as openers.
And then, weirdly enough, Bob Weir was just sprinkled in randomly. Like he would come up and he'd be like, "Our friend Bob Weir." And Bob Weir would come up and play like a My Morning Jacket song, 1 song, 2 songs, leave. Then Wilco would be like, here's Bob Weir again for some reason. Here comes Bob Weir. It was so weird. Some girl was hitting on my dad who was like 20. It was weird. Like, It was weird. Anyway, yeah, I just like
Somehow that wasn't the weirdest thing that night. It was Bob Weir. That was the weirdest thing.
That was the weirdest thing. Anyway, yeah, this is really nuts with everything going on, and like I just like it makes sense, and like I like look. He had $300 million, which I would be like, if I wrote, he has a lifetime worth of material, but like if I wrote a lifetime worth of songs and they're like, we'll pay you $300 million for half of the rights related to it. Okay, yeah, I'll take it, please. Like that's kind of the thing.
Well,
like,
I think too, the thing about this story that is also adds another layer is he is so secretive and has been secretive for most of his career. It's really hard to know like what Bob Dylan's doing, Right. And like we said before, now that he's older, we see him even less. And so when he's up in the news, it's always something huge.
Can I say the one of my other random factoids is that I have this pride in my life. One time at a trivia night, I got the correct answer to win the game of who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, who was a songwriter, and it was Bob Dylan. Just want to throw that in there. That's
I'm glad you threw that flex in this.
I have no skills at all, but I can win a game of trivia.
I mean, I guess that's a skill.
I'm telling you right now, like, no. Like, I'm not saying I could go on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I'm saying like if we're in a bar somewhere, we could do it together. You see how worthless this skill is? Another thing that's changed is Radio Disney. It's dead. So like, pretty
Ding
much,
dong, she's dead.
Yeah, pretty much. So I wanted to cover this because Billboard kind of have an opinion piece, and this is called "Why the Radio Disney Shutdown Will Leave a Big Hole in Our Industry." And again, all the articles are below if you want to read them yourselves. So basically, they kind of assert and give you like a history of it, which I didn't know about. And like personally, I didn't grow up with Radio Disney, but I've talked to a lot of people and they were like, that's how I was raised. Like in the car, like we would just listen to Radio Disney. You know what I mean? And
Can't relate.
Like yeah, it's just, yeah, right. And that's kind of me too. Like I was stuck with like weird acid, like related psychedelic music.
You had a weird childhood, Colin. Anyway. I'm just going to be honest. You were a savant of dad rock by the time you were like 14.
So leaving my savanthood away from that, my very limited trivia winning savanthood. But like basically, here's a brief history of Radio Disney and like why Billboard thinks this. So after 24 years, which I didn't know was around for 24 years, Jesus,
yeah, that's crazy.
Radio Disney will shut down in early 2021, laying off 36 full-time and part-time employees, which I was like, 36? I thought there would be like 5 people working there. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, as Billboard asserts, this will have a ripple effect through the industry as Radio Disney and Radio Disney Country regularly champion
Wait,
news
there's
acts
a country version?
I'll get to it. For a young demographic. Quote, there's going to be a big hole in our industry, says Kaylee Shore, the, quote, fight like a girl country singer who co-hosts a Radio Disney country show called Let the Girls Play. Quote, being embraced by Radio Disney so early on in my career really changed the game for me. Overall, Walt Disney has announced 23,000 employees will be laid off and has lost $2.8 billion in revenue this fiscal year.
Jesus.
A little money. It's all right.
Just a little bit.
23,000 people don't have work anymore. It's cool. But, quote, a company statement says the reason for the Radio Disney move was to, quote, sharpen its focus on increased production of kids and family content for Disney Plus and Disney Channel. So this was happening.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as they announced like Disney Plus, I mean, a huge shift was going to happen in that company.
And there's huge things with Disney Channel on that too.
Okay, and I don't specifically know like how financials are tracked though, but if your company lost that much money after your big launch of your new platform, like is that necessarily the correct time to take off a revenue stream?
Yeah.
I like what I've seen with Disney and a lot of companies because, like I like stocks. This is an intro to this. I like stocks.
You're a
so when
stocks
something
guy.
bad happens, I go look at the stock because it might be time to buy. Problem is these companies have thousands upon thousands of divisions. So people are smart. When Walt Disney goes down in one way, like, oh, Radio Disney closes, I guess if you were like, oh no, this is really going to affect Disney.
My Radio Disney stock.
There could be other parts of Disney that do well, so the stock just could go up or stay the same or something like that. So that's kind of what's happening here is that like Disney Plus has shown that a lot of people have like bought it, especially like families, because they're just like, I have to buy Disney Plus because my 3-year-old loves Elsa. So like pretty much like that is shown to be well. What hasn't shown to be well is obviously like the more COVID related things. So we're talking about theme parks, obviously. We're talking about like movie releases that are theatrical, you know what I mean? Big money makers, but like in general with the company, it's like, oh wait, well, this is like a small part of the company, quote unquote. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening to lose $2.8 billion. So like the stock's down, but like what I'm saying is like there's a lot of moving parts that could be going up and down and left and right, you know, and like the stock could just be okay.
Well, it seemed like maybe Radio Disney was costing more than it was making too.
Radio Disney seems to, from the assertion they're saying, it seems to have been an eventuality. It seems they were already moving it, and then they were like, well, we're losing a bunch of money, so this is going to happen real fast. So at 2005, its peak, which is funny to think about to me, Disney Radio had 50 radio stations, but now has dwindled down to little above half of that and operates mainly over AM and digital outlets.
What?
Also in 2005, Disney Radio...
Disney AM radio?
That's how far they've gone down. It's Disney Radio AM and digital outlets.
Oh my
because
god!
I don't think they can afford. You know, they don't want to pay for the FM space. Maybe that's my theory.
I guess that makes sense.
Also in 2005, at their peak, Radio Disney was available in 97% of the United States and Sirius XM, as well as having a Japan, Europe, and Latin American spin-off. So not small at one point in their thing. Billboard adds, quote, it was instrumental in marketing the hit movie High School Musical, 2006, and its soundtrack, and helped break kid-friendly artists such as Disney-bred acts like the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato, and outside stars such as Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, and more established hitmakers like Britney Spears. Quote, it's going to leave a gap, says Chris Moncada. We'll go with that. Moncada. A senior VP responsible for children's audio properties at E1 Music, which owns family brands like PJ Masks and Peppa Pig. Quote, it puts a little more pressure on people like us to create the story elsewhere, like TikTok and kids channels on Sirius XM and Pandora. On the flip side, quote, why are we owning all these transmitters and land that serve no real purpose, end quote, says Lance Vetta, owner and publisher of Radio Insight. Quote, everybody has a Spotify playlist if they're looking to serve the audience. Billboard adds, it wasn't all doom and gloom like the entire time it went down over the years. Quote, until the pandemic kicked off, Radio Disney had been expanding, opening its country outpost in Nashville in 2015, and a Music Row studio over the past year. This studio was the home base of Let the Girls Play, a program devoted to playing female country artists. Quote, they gave us so much creative control to use the platform, Shore tells Billboard. Adds Ray Lynn, a Texas country singer featured on the channel earlier in her career. Quote, I'm saddened that this is all coming to a close. So I was like, I felt bad for them. Like, it sucks. And I
Well, and you can't argue the amount of influence this has had over the years with stars. Like, I mean, especially Disney stars,
for their, you could argue for their ability to pivot and, do the regular, I'm on Disney Channel. I have a music career now. Mm-hmm. And then, to make that, change, they probably needed Radio Disney.
It was probably a huge deal to get on that when you were still making your Disney show.
And you're to the target audience. I mean, if you have Radio Disney, you're watching Disney Channel shows. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's what, hand in hand, and you don't have to pay an outside promoter. It's Disney. They all own it.
Yeah. And kids content too is a huge moneymaker. People forget, but we could look at fucking Baby Shark this year.
This guy is a senior VP responsible for children's audio properties. He just for children's music. You know what I mean?
Taking it to just my side of the world, Kids Bop.
Oh,
Think about that. And that's not even original music. That's just covers. Kids music has such a market. It a huge market that if you don't have kids or you're not a kid, you just kind of totally forget about.
Right.
Yeah, we like to make fun of Kids Bop, but aren't they huge overseas too?
They're
they're
huge
the
everywhere.
biggest selling records.
Internationally huge. I mean, and outside of just music, like they have like their own merch, their own tours, their own everything.
Yeah, I remember Drew Gooden did that really good video about him going to a
Bop
Kids
tour?
Bop concert. Yeah.
Oh, I
and
forgot
you could,
about that.
Try out or whatever. But like, yeah, it sounds silly, but it's big money, you know.
Yes.
I mean, and like for real, like obviously, like part of it is like marketed towards the kids, but part of it's really marketed towards the parents because it's safe, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's something you can turn on and leave on and not feel weird. Like if a song comes up, you know, for your
right.
kid.
I mean, it's scary, especially in the internet age, to just like you just give a try. Here's the internet. Go. Yeah. Ooh, no. You know what I mean?
Here's a literal supercomputer. Do what you want.
Right. It's scary to do that. So like I understand like why parents would be like, we're gonna put the Kids Bop CD on in the car, or I got the Kids Bop playlist. We're just gonna leave that on, and if I have to, you know, get out and pump gas, then I know there's not some like obscenity in it. If you're like really mad about this, again, I had a weird childhood, so like I listened to a lot of weird things. Anyway, like pretty much, yeah. So like they have 36 people gone. I mean, I don't know if they saw it coming or if it seemed like an eventuality. Like I'm sure they knew that this would eventually happen, but to me it seems like the pandemic just kind of put like the gas pedal down for this move.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, to country music, this is obviously impacting country music. This was kind of a pipeline to get to country radio.
Right.
It seems like.
And these, women are saying this. And like, the premise of the show is very admirable, especially in country music, to have a girls only country show, you know?
Yeah.
And like, especially, I mean, we talked about CMT had the 50-50, kind of deal where we play girls and boys 50-50. But like to have that is like a big deal and a loss to, a lot of female young songwriters, especially like, I'm not going to lie to you, like Disney and country kind of go hand in hand. Like I can
They
see
have the
people,
audience, man.
right.
The audience loves it.
The cross between the audience of like, I want my kids to listen to Disney music and I listen to country music is like pretty exponential. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same as like, I really like hardcore hip hop and Disney kids music. No, like, you know what I mean?
Or lo-fi hip hop and Disney.
You gotta ask Thomas about that.
Yeah.
How many features?
Hey, Thomas, when's your Disney deal coming up,
when's
buddy?
the Disney deal? But like, yeah, I feel sad for these people at the same time, but I also am like, it was gonna happen. It was crazy to learn how big Radio Disney was because I did not know that. I just knew like friends of ours that were like, oh yeah, we only listen to Radio Disney in my family's car, which I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I only had 3 listens to Radio Disney because my grandparents had it on XM and we couldn't, like my family couldn't afford XM, so we just didn't. But like my grandma would turn it on. I think I was like 15 and she turned it on and I was like, I just went with it. I was like, cool, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely going to leave a hole in the market, but I think that someone's going to jump on
Fill
that
it.
hole really
So like
fast.
I actually was looking into it too, and like Disney itself isn't like completely, out of it. Like it the way this article makes it seem is it seems like Disney's out of the game. And I was like, no, they have exclusive deals with Spotify.
No, it's Disney.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like and all that kind of stuff. So like, I was saying, they have an exclusive deal with Spotify where they like present playlists and music and like different stuff for that. So it's like again, it's kind of like our talk about Howard Stern where it's like the medium just changes. But like it's definitely, I think the pipeline is definitely down because it's it's so different in this day and age to like be a young artist and try to promote yourself because like the experience is very different and it's not a one-to-one equivalent. Like obviously if this was live right now over the radio and we were talking, then like it's pretty similar, but like to be like, okay, well, we're going to have to do promotion. You know what I mean? Like for a young artist, we're gonna have to do promotion. What did you do back in the day? You're going to go to a shit ton of radio shows. You're going to go there and be like, hi, I'm Colin. I'm here's with my song. Here's my guitar. Here we go. Let's play a single. And that's how it is. Now it's like, should we buy out this Spotify playlist? And so I'm on the playlist. Should we like do some viral marketing? Should we like, do a YouTube collect? Like it's weird. It's not the same.
Blogs.
Right. It's not like obviously nothing's one-to-one from the, age of terrestrial to digital, but like it's definitely way further than like the regular jump.
Yeah.
So I think that's like also why a lot of radio people have been like scared to leave because it's just so weird to change.
Well, I think it's hard to leave anything when you were number one and now you're not anymore.
Right.
Like, I mean, the medium itself, like Kennedy, you were talking about how everybody just listened to radio. That's what every single person, imagine that. like my mom told me about this because like in the 70s, apparently this was a thing. People would drive around and know
Try to get the
exactly
different
what
radio signals.
station you were on.
Right.
And your friends would all drive together and listen to the same station on full blast in all their cars. And it would be the same thing. And now it's like you cannot get that now. Nobody's listening to the same thing at the same time anymore.
Yeah.
So the market's so segmented. There's so many different things out there that, I mean, why would I turn my AM radio station on to Radio
and the other
Disney
thing is the
when there's a
marketing.
playlist on Spotify that I can choose the songs that I
The
want to listen
marketing's
to?
different. You know, like if you like a radio station and it's like, 1970, 1980, 1990, and you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the next song. And they're like, we're going to talk to this person. And you're like, well, I want to listen to this radio station still. It's like, you're stuck there. Like, it's really hard to
Yeah.
get. There's a reason that a click-through rate is an impressive thing that you show to, record labels and stuff. Because that's way harder to do. And that's kind of the whole thing with the digital age is like, you had all these players that were gatekeepers that were like, we control the whole pipeline. Oh, okay, channel 4 is this. There's nothing else on channel 4 today. You're going to watch what we want to watch. Here's a commercial for plumbing or something weird, But like pretty much like that was the way it is. And now the digital age is like, well, here, you should watch us. Here, you should watch us. Here, you should watch us. And it's so much noise. It's hard
Yep.
for people. So like I agree with the whole like aspect of it because it's different. You know what I mean? And like, look, like there's a reason the country station started. It's because country music has huge terrestrial radio still. You know what I mean? But then when people don't go to work in their regular cars as often and like, you're stuck
And they
in your
just
house.
figure out streaming exists, which I thought was hilarious. Like they're like, this just in, country fans figured out streaming exists. And they're like, whoa.
Yeah, I know. Like all those publications, I was like, just in, country music fans have figured out they don't have to stare at the wall 8 hours a day. They can use the computer. I'm like, are you people just being so mean to these people because they like country music? I was like,
They're just roasting, dude.
right. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well,
fun
goodbye,
times.
Radio Disney.
Rest in peace. I think we should have a memorial service for Radio Disney.
Just
Take a moment of silence for Radio Disney.
light one up for Radio Disney. Pour one out for Radio. I know one person that's our friend that's going to pour one out for Radio Disney.
Yep. The Hunter Boy.
Yeah.
Well, Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. At this end, we talked about it before, but we like to talk about kind of the music we're listening to just throughout the week, anything new, anything you want to plug, stuff like that. This week, I've actually been, our Spotify rewind came in finally. I feel like everybody's kind of on a nostalgia trip right now. But I am listening to an artist called Muna. And I have also been listening. I keep listening to that Fleet Fox album. It's so good. Mm-hmm. I can't stop. And I listened to the new Miley Cyrus, which I have an opinion about, but
I'm very controversial opinion about, which I'm not going to say.
I'm not gonna lie. Some of the songs sound like Nickelback, just a little bit. I'm just gonna be honest. The vocal tuning on some of the songs, there's a lot of layers, but I thought some of the tracks were really good, though. I did enjoy the record as a whole.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fuck it. I'll listen to Nickelback sometimes. I'll admit it. I don't care.
Leave me alone.
You know?
No shame in the game.
Yeah,
there.
no shame.
No.
Look at it.
A little bit of shame.
People are like, that's my guilty pleasure. And I was like, oh, we're supposed to feel guilty about that?
Yeah. No guilty pleasures. Actually, yes, guilty pleasures.
You want to hear a funny story about Nickelback I have? When I was working at the production company, the guy who mixed Nickelback was there. And he's this really nice guy. He's mixed so many bands. And like he's mixed Joe Walsh. He's mixed a bunch of big bands. He's an older guy. And we used to give him shit because he mixed Nickelback. And he was like, literally, I said, why do you mix Nickelback? And he goes, because they pay me more money than any band has ever paid me. And I was like, that's fair. I feel like if you're Nickelback, you have a very defined sound and it needs to be correct. So like you need to pay someone who's really good.
Yep.
But I just think that was so funny because they give him shit all day. They'd be like, so how's listening to Photograph every day? What's that like?
Yeah.
And then like, it was just hilarious. And we even got to listen to like raw board takes of stuff. And oh my God, it was so funny.
Yeah.
But like,
I've heard too that Nickelback is actually like one of the nicest bands to work with. But I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I have heard a lot of people have liked their interactions with them. Apparently, too, word on the street is like they were humbled after a lot of the hate. So I don't know. But
every time it makes me laugh. Anyway.
But Kennedy, what have you been listening to?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Spotify Rap just came out, so a lot of nostalgia. But one artist, I don't even know if I say his name right, so like that's
fine. I already said 5 things wrong. You go ahead.
But there's an artist called Apache. He's like a EDM, but he mixes in like classical strings.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like super unique. Never heard anything like it. So I've been re-listening to his Renaissance album, which came out, I think, early this year, February, March, something like that. And then a new artist I'm on is called Hot Milk.
Dude, perfect name.
They have a song called Candy Coated Lies. It's kind of like their first song that's getting any sort of, traction. They toured with the Foo Fighters, but they're like a rock band, but not like the Foo Fighters. That's actually kind of a surprising person to tour with. But those are the things that I'm kind of
Hot Milk.
what I jammed to
Hot Milk
on the way here. So
that's amazing. I'm gonna check out Hot Milk.
The name alone, I would want to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think that was the first name? I hope it was. Like they were like, so what's the name?
They had a list. They were like hot, cold.
I was like, they took like
room
adjectives
temperature.
and like common household items, and they were like,
That's
let's
honestly
roll a
every
dice.
indie band, or just
Truly.
plural.
Yeah.
Churches.
Cold Cabinet didn't make the cut. But I've been Colin's corner of weird things always. I was listening to Tears for Fears, the Seeds of Love album.
Nice.
Which is really, really good because I used to listen to just the greatest hits, and it's a weird vibe.
It's
man.
so weird. I love
There's
it.
look, it's got big production, and like what I mean by big production is it's not like 6 things layered because that's impressive, but like it's not the same level of impressive. It's just like here's an oboe and an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar and then weird synth sounds everywhere. And then like all the songs are like 5 minutes and it's like hot, loud, soft, loud. Like it's just all over the place, but it's super 80s, like all over, like just going for it kind of stuff. And I always like Tears for Fears. I'm on the sad YouTube music front, so I don't get Wrapped. It sucks because this is the one time of the year where I'm like, God damn it, you YouTube Premium. This is your one draw. I don't get those cool little pictures, like when, and I can show my friends how I've listened to songs. But actually, I don't want to do that because most of my songs are embarrassing. But like, I've been listening to that, like stuff from there, which is Joe. There's a lot of Flight of the Conchords in there, just so you know.
Yeah, I knew it.
And then the one I've been listening to also is I was listening to Lewis Cole's like live album a lot, which is like 2019. He's like a jazz fusion kind of guy, which is impressive. But he's not like one of those older guys where he's like, "This is my art." Like that's all like jazz fusion.
He's very modern, but he blew up a lot on like just all over the place with some of the clips
because Thundercat too, and he's and it's like really funny. But like he's just a funny guy. He does like viral videos too. Like it's just funny.
His live sessions are hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like they're in his like tiny house with his like 8 roommates,
and he'll have like a horn section and like an orchestra sitting in the kitchen
and dancers.
Right. Yeah, that's what I love about him. Is it's just like weird. It's not like that stuff where I feel like you can't make the complaint where it's like it's just like 6 guys soloing at the same time. And I was like, no, it's not. It's pretty funky though. I really like it. I think it's pretty good overall, but I'm gonna be stuck on the YouTube music train listening to my their equivalent is called my 2020 year in review, and it's just a list of songs. Like it's just your list of songs in a row of what you
don't get a cool graphic.
I don't get a cool graphic.
Well, we get cool graphics, Colin,
you
because
get
we're
a cool
cool.
graphic that you can share straight to your Instagram story with your friends.
That no one's gonna look at, but we all expect them to.
I don't get anything. The stupid part is I don't get like percentage. Like I think the percentages are so funny where it's like you're in the 0.3% of people that listen to like Flight of the Conchords or something, and I'm just like. I like Spotify with the analytics. Sometimes I'm like, come on, YouTube Music. I was like, you're run by Google. You can do this.
Yeah. You know what was very humbling to me? I looked up, it was like my top streamed song, right? And I was like, oh, it's got to be like 100 streams. 52 streams was the top streamed song for me. And you can imagine, like the royalty rate for streams is garbage. And it just makes you think even more. You're like, I don't even think I gave this artist like $1. Like to have their music. Like
No,
that's
you do not.
insane.
Oh, well, it's so low, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just weird to like think about sometimes where you're like we looked at R for the podcast, and like, you know, it's like a hard cutoff if you don't know about Wrapped, because like I know because I was looking at it and was like, you've released 24 episodes, and I was like, we've released like 26, so like what's up, like what's going on with this? And then like I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's from this date to this date, and from like whatever time they calculated a year, me and Joe had talked 2 days worth of material on this podcast, which I
Yeah.
was like, Jesus
We won't shut
Christ. Yeah.
We just keep going.
Wait, so I'm actually pretty new to the Spotify train. I was on the Apple train for a little bit, jumped right off that.
That's
but-
fine. That's
so,
admirable as opposed to YouTube music as I die on this hill.
so have podcasts always been included in the Spotify Wrap?
I
No.
think they've gotten new at it, like, because, you know, the huge
I think
increase
this
in
year-
podcasts.
Like on my little presentation, I had like 3 whole slides about podcasts. I was like, all right,
They're really
let's
pushing.
get it.
It's like one of the sectors of like just speaking material that's just popping off right now.
Yeah.
Because radio is so difficult. So like it's just going so high up, and like it's just weird to think about. The one that I think the number one for it is like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And like,
oh yeah, he's
been
number
on
one.
there for like
and then
6
number
months.
number two is The Daily by New York Times,
Which-
which is hilarious. I love The Daily because it's the guy is like, you're listening to The Daily, and it's like that every time he talks like this, and I don't know,
So
it's great. I love
animated.
it.
Yeah, look, I thought my 2 days was impressive, but I'm sure Joe Rogan's, it's like, you've listened to 8 millennia worth of, like, about DMT.
The dude talks a lot.
His podcasts are like 4 hours.
I know. All right. Well, that's Showbiz, baby. Thanks for listening to That Showbiz Baby podcast, your all things music business and media podcast. If you want, you can check us out Twitter at Showbiz Baby Pod, Facebook and Instagram at That Showbiz Baby Podcast, or email us thatshowbizbabypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.